Yeah, so I don't see the chat, Seymour, so if you can keep an eye on the chat, because we'll be
Yeah.
hopefully asking people some questions. Yeah, so first I just want to say real quick that this is obviously a comprehensive overview. This is a huge topic, how to sell and how to attract your ideal clients. We could have easily made this twice as long, but we wanted to keep it really short and sweet. So we tried to pack as much information as possible. It's going to take about 25 minutes for the presentation. So if there's anything that you want to ask some further questions about, or for us to give you some additional details, please make a note and we'll have a Q&A at the end. All right, so let's start with perception. So I'm curious, people who are here today, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word sales? If you can please write in the chat, don't overthink it, don't stress, just some things that come to mind when you hear sales or salespeople, or just like the general concept of selling. So for me, it would be money, for example. That's the first thing that I think. Seymour, I see that there is some. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So we have cold calling, there's money, icky, need, growth. So good mix.
Was that gross or growth?
Growth.
Okay, great. All right. So yeah, I guessed actually a few of them. So spam is something that often is mistaken as a synonym to sales. Uh, Used car salesman, I thought maybe somebody would mention. So people who try to trick you, and sleazy people who kind of try to manipulate and sell you something that you don't actually need. Cold callers. So we had one of those. So this is a GIF from a great film, The Wolf of Wall Street. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend. It's about stockbrokers who, cold call people. Great film, but doesn't portray the profession of sales in a great light, unfortunately. So the overall theme is that, it's often kind of pushy, people who try to take your money at all costs and maybe sell you stuff that you don't really need. So unfortunately, often it has a negative perception. So there is for sure a lot of people out there who try and want to take advantage of you. So it's really good to be cautious. But I think it is unfair to generalize the entire profession based on these negative stereotypes, because usually these people don't believe in what they're selling, and they're just selling to get paid. And there's no judgment. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. Not everybody likes their job, but people have to eat. But I think the truth is that most of us are involved in some kind of selling on regular basis. So, for example, some everyday interactions. So when you ask somebody for help or for a favor, that's a little negotiation. When you share an idea or an opinion, or maybe you try to convince your friends like which movie to go watch, that's also an example of selling. Meeting new people. So when we network, we want to portray and present us in a certain way, so we attract the right type of people. When we apply for a job, obviously we have to sell our skills, demonstrate our expertise, kind of demonstrate the value that we're going to bring to the hiring company. And obviously running a business. So if you're running a business, you are basically selling all the time. So I think a nice positive way to think about sales is that it's about communicating the value of something in a way that builds trust, because a sale is going to happen only if there is some kind of trust. And the idea is to establish a connection. So I really like this quote. I think it sums it up nicely. Mediocre people who work loudly outperform great people who work quietly. While it's not fair, it is the reality. So if you're doing great work, you need to get loud about it, because the market is oversaturated. So if you're just doing good work and kind of waiting for people to come and find you, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. So the really successful people and businesses are the ones who are not just doing a good work, but also know how to talk about it and how to market and sell it. So let's just really quickly differentiate marketing and sales, because both of those are really important functions for every business, but there are some key differences. So this is what we call a marketing and sales funnel. So this is how the new potential customers or clients come to us, and they go through this funnel. And the idea is that they will make that purchasing decision at the end. So marketing is responsible for building awareness around your product or service and getting people interested and starting considering what you're offering. And then once the potential buyer shows some kind of intent, so they give some kind of buying signal, that's when the sales team comes in and they help them to make that purchasing decision. And the sales team is especially important if what you're selling is on the higher price point. Because if you're selling something that costs $10, it's quite low risk, so people might just go online and feel confident to just make the purchase. But if you're selling something that costs, let's say, $1,000, people will probably want to speak to somebody first. So they will have some questions like, how is this better than the 5 other options that I'm considering? They might have some objections. So that's where the sales team is really important to help them make that purchasing decision. And also we can think of it like marketing addresses the entire market, whereas the sales team addresses those individual people who are ready to become potential buyers.
Yep. So everything in business happens downstream from lead generation. We define a lead as a potential client interested in our service or product, and they come from 3 specific sources. It's either inbound, referral, or outbound. Now, inbound leads typically come from our marketing efforts. So, for example, as a response to an advertisement or social media post, and they come with a certain amount of interest, obviously. Referrals are recommendations that come from either past or current clients, and they're effective as they come with social proof baked in. Outbound sales is the process of directly approaching prospective clients who haven't previously expressed any interest in us, with the intention of introducing them to our product or service. Now, relying solely on inbound leads is risky because you don't know what you're getting. There's a chance they won't fit your target group. And on the other hand, whilst referrals will almost certainly be more relevant, you have no idea when they're coming. With outbound sales, you take that success into your own hands. You're not sitting around waiting for business just to walk through the door, and you get to choose exactly who you target, which is empowering. Now, when it's part of a cohesive client acquisition strategy, sales and marketing complement each other perfectly. So we can educate, inform, and generally get people excited about our offer through marketing. And then we can use our outbound engine to contact those who may not otherwise have found us. So if we look at some of the benefits of doing outbound sales, most appealing, I guess, is the low cost. So it means that even if you're a solopreneur who's just starting out, you can get your sales function up and running and generating revenue for just a few €100. You get to laser focus on who you're targeting. So a useful exercise that we go through with all of our clients is getting them to list the common traits, characteristics, qualities of their favorite clients, and then simply target companies who share these. This allows you to curate your clients and work with people and on projects that really energize you. Another benefit is you get gained control over your pipeline, making it more predictable and more consistent. And you can enjoy a fast response and conversion time. Now, people can consume your content for months without ever getting in touch. Whereas with outbound, we can reach out and contact a potential buyer and start a conversation, whether it finishes with a deal or a project or not. We can get immediate valuable feedback from that.
Great, thanks for that, Timur. So now let's take a look at what do we actually need to have in place in order to have an outbound function. So it all starts from the problem that you solve. So hopefully this is not news to you. If you're running a business and if you want it to be successful and profitable, it needs to solve a real problem. So don't sell what you want to sell what people actually need. Then you need to have your target audience. So this is the people who are experiencing that problem. We also call them ICP, which stands for Ideal Client Profile. Then you need to have a compelling offer. So this is an attractive offer that's tailored to your audience. This is what we're actually going to reach out to people with. And then obviously you need to have a process in place. So this starts from research, then performing the actual outreach, and doing that consistently. So now we're going to go into more detail for each of these. So starting from the problem. So people who are here on this call, I'm curious, how do you define what problem does your business solve? So if you can just drop in the chat, just very briefly, like what's the problem that you're solving? I'll give you an example. At Matchstick, people come to us when they don't have enough leads, they don't book enough client calls, so their pipeline is inconsistent, unpredictable, and so is their revenue. So that's kind of the package of problems that we solve for them. And if you're not thinking of your service or product in such a way, this can be a really powerful tweak. So you don't like describe what it is, but more what it does, like what kind of problem it eliminates. I don't know, Simur, if anyone's put in the chat something that you want to read.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, if it's not something that you're used to considering, it can be quite challenging to start thinking about the work that you do in these terms. One person, Debbie, has my clients can't find the right hires, usually due to cultural fit, which can stunt growth. Fantastic. That's pain and problem in there.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So I guess we'll dive in. Yeah, so when you speak to a potential client, just pay attention that you're not just describing like the features of your product or service, but you're actually showing the benefits of working with you and the potential outcomes that you can achieve for your target audience. So an example is people don't buy a drill, they actually buy a hole. So even if you're selling a drill, what you're actually selling is what people can do with it. So make holes to build stuff, to hang stuff. So focus more on that rather than on describing, all the features, like how many inches and stuff like that. So yeah, don't pitch features, show benefits and outcomes. So once we have the problem that we're solving, we need to think about who is experiencing this problem, who is our target audience. So imagine that you are in a crowded metro, there's lots of people, it's really noisy, and you shout, "Hey, everybody." Chances are that nobody's going to hear you, nobody's going to pay attention. But then if you shout, "Hey, Sarah," everybody whose name is Sarah, probably you will get their attention, they're going to turn around, they'll look at you. So this is the overall concept, that instead of addressing everyone, in which case you'll probably resonate with no one, you need to have your Sarah. So you need to know as much as you can about her, what she likes, where she works, what are her challenges, so that you can speak to her in her language in a way that's going to get her attention. So yeah, Sarah is the ICP. So you need to have your ICP profile. So some of the characteristics that we can look at, obviously industry. So where do they work? Company size. If you're targeting somebody who is part of a 10 people company versus 10,000 people company, you're going to need completely different approaches. So really important to consider. Location can be applicable in some cases. Job title is always important. So are they a founder? Are they a head of marketing, finance director, et cetera, et cetera? In some cases, values and mission. So if you're looking for like mission aligned clients, this is something that we look at because we're working with purpose-driven businesses. And the most important is their needs and challenges. So that's the single most important thing that you have to know about your target audience. So now that we've defined our ICP, let's have a look at how do we actually put together an attractive offer that's going to grab their attention. So again, it starts with not describing how amazing your service is, but what it can do for them. So addressing their challenges and pain points. So let's go back to the example of the drill. People don't buy a drill, they buy a hole to do what? To maybe hang a heavy mirror. But what they really want is for that mirror to be really safe and secure so that it doesn't fall and injure their kids who are running around and playing. So even though your product is a drill, what you're actually selling is what people can do with the drill, which is hanging stuff on walls. But what you really are selling is also that peace of mind that that's going to be hung nicely, securely. Kids are going to be safe. Everybody is going to be happy. So you have to make that emotional connection. And this doesn't mean like dwelling on the negatives, so on the pain points, but more demonstrating that you understand what they are and that you know what needs to be done in order to overcome them. Then a common mistake that people make with cold outreach is just going straight into a pitch, which almost never works. Because for a sale to happen, you need to have some level of trust. So people need to know you. And when you're reaching out completely cold, usually that's not the case. So don't pitch for marriage on the first day is one way of putting it. The idea is not to make a sale immediately. It's more to make a connection. So to start the conversation. And remember that not everybody is ready to buy now. It's actually very few people who are like, who need it right now and they're ready to pay you right now. So a lot of people are just gathering information, they're considering. So more important is that you always offer value. So when you reach out, you can invite them to an event, or you can share some relevant industry update or some resource, or maybe a case study that's relevant to them. So that's more important that actually, trying to get them to give you their money immediately. And obviously, if you have social proof, that's going to elevate your offer because, yeah, there's always the stranger danger. So people will trust you much more if you can show them that you've already solved a similar problem for somebody else. I know this can be difficult when we're a small business, but yeah, just try to get any kind of social proof. It's better than no social proof. So now we have our ICP, we have the problem that we solve, we kind of know how to present it to them. So how do we actually reach out to them and where do we find them? How do we make that connection? So I really quickly just want to address something that a lot of people tell me that they experience, and I myself still have that sometimes, fear of rejection. So rejection is inevitable in sales. It's going to happen. It's part of the process. I know it's easier said than done, but don't take it personally. Try to reframe it. So every no gets you closer to a yes. You can try to turn that fear of getting rejected into fear of missing out, because really, if you don't reach out to these people, you might miss out on some amazing opportunities. And of course, using it as a learning opportunity. So even if they tell you no, at the very least, you will get some feedback. So you can know your audience better and you can maybe tailor your offer a little bit better for the next time you reach out. So now we start doing the actual research. So we always recommend not buying ready lead lists. It's always better to build your own because this way they will be actually tailored to your market, tailored to your offering. So some tools that you can use, obviously LinkedIn is a great place. LinkedIn Groups is actually a free resource. That's a good way to qualify people based on their interests. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is great, although it's a paid one. But yeah, they have some really nice filters. Apollo, if you don't know this tool, they have also a really good free account. You can get people's email addresses there as well. And then events. So if people are attending a webinar or an event, if you can get that list of attendees, that's usually also a great way to qualify that people are, interested in a specific topic, for example. And now we get into the actual outreach part. So how do we reach out to these people? And I'm going to pass it to Seymour.
Yep. So we're going to wrap up this part of the workshop by sharing just a few tips on what to consider when you're setting up an outbound campaign. So we can use a variety of channels such as email, phone. We use dynamic videos, which are very short, 30-second sales video. It's not some high quality glossy marketing video. It's a quite raw 30-second video. We can use social media and direct mail, with the first four of these being relatively low cost to implement. Email remains the most effective channel for lead generation. Every business uses it. There's no need for expensive ad spend, and most email platforms are affordable even for small businesses. We'll just give you a breakdown of a example of one of our 30-day sequences. So we typically send 4 emails, 1 week apart, and these are interspersed with LinkedIn messaging, direct mail, and warm calling. Warm calling in particular is particularly effective as we can reach out when we see people engaging with our content. Now, there's a common misconception regarding email, and that's email equals spam, and that it's illegal. Now, there's a distinct difference that we'll just touch on now. So, spam emails, they lack personalization, appear generic, and are often irrelevant to the recipient. They're typically part of a mass campaign with tens of thousands of recipients, and these are illegal. There's legislation in Europe, there's GDPR. In the US, there's CAN spam. Now, effective cold emails are personalized. They address the recipient by name, reference specific details about their business or role, and offer solutions tailored to their needs. In short, they are relevant. Give people a way to easily unsubscribe from receiving your messaging, and this type of cold email is fully compliant with GDPR and CAN spam. It's legal. One thing to mention, so even with the most cautious approach to cold emailing, we accept that over time, the domain that we're using will eventually degrade. With that in mind, we never use our primary domain. We always purchase a proxy for cold email campaigns. So just an example, Ina's put on the screen there. Our primary domain is thematchstick.co. And to send cold emails, we use a different domain such as wearematchstick.com or thematchstick.co.uk. Now, it's not just as easy as hitting send and waiting for the deals to come rolling in. Landing in the primary inbox of your target audience is challenging, and that's a good thing. It should be. There are step-by-step protocols that need to be followed, such as authenticating their email address. And we have a detailed guide that I'll share in the chat with you on this, a step-by-step guide that will walk you through exactly how to set up your own email campaigns. Now, it's important to say just staying consistent and following up. The tap doesn't turn on right away. Be persistent, share value, create value, and the deals will come eventually. Now, one thing just as important as Ina was mentioning about who's our ideal person. So when is just as important as who. So as an example, let's say you run a recruitment consultancy. One of your target companies, they announce that they've just secured £3 million of funding. So this is a signal that they will likely be adding headcount. They'll be increasing the number of employees that they have. So it's a good time for you to reach out. Similarly, people attending a webinar on how to find a job in IT are displaying a high degree of intent, and the recruitment agency could use this attendee list for a cold email campaign. So again, when you reach out, it's just as important as who you reach out to. As Ina mentioned earlier, vast majority of your target audience, around 95% of your target audience isn't ready to buy now. So make it your goal to provide value consistently, be patient, and be persistent.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave us all with this quote, which is my favorite quote about sales, just to reinforce kind of the positive sides of it that we've been talking about. That to sell is to help the unaware, inspire the interested, and reassure those who have formed intent. So if you believe in what you're selling, then please get loud and proud about it. And hopefully this workshop gave you some tips and some guidance.